Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard. I went from being a lawyer and partner at one of the largest firms in America to becoming an online personality and successful entrepreneur. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your health and personal life. So, how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you chase joy while achieving success? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back to Hustle and Flow. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and we are on episode 234. And today we have a special Ask Me Anything episode, volume 2. I'm not sure if you all remember back when it was like the 90s, the 2000s, the 80s, the 70s, the hits, volume 1 through 5,000. And that's my goal for the Ask Me Anything segment, is for you guys to just keep asking me questions and me taking the opportunity to answer them. So if you want to go ahead and get a head start and get your question in for the next round of Ask Me Anything, you can go to heatherjoyhubbard.com/ask me anything. That's it. And that will stay. So as long as you keep asking questions, we'll keep doing this segment. Today's segment is specific to businesses, and I got really good questions that are kind of on a lot of different types of business topics. So I'm really excited to share my answers with you today. So let me go ahead and tell you who asked the questions so that you will know if I'm answering your question. So we got questions from Nancy Drew, Super Sleuth, Shannon, Doris, Business Bougie on a Budget, and Attorney Always Looking for Alternative Careers. So they've got lots of great questions. And so let's just dig in. Let's start with question number 1, which came from Nancy Drew, Super Sleuth. And that was, what does your typical day look like? What does your typical day look like? Well, I don't have a typical day, but I can tell you what this week kind of looks like. First and foremost, I wake up with the sun. That was one of the things that I always wanted. And I did that a little bit, even towards the end when I was practicing law, when I could. Sometimes I didn't have an option. I had to get up a little bit earlier. But the sun, where I am, I'm going to be up between 5:30 and 7:30, no matter what. And it's really just the sun is going to dictate when that is for me. I love not having to wake up to something artificial. The concept of the alarm clock. I just don't wake up I just love waking up on my own. I actually had someone recently say that's not very Capricorn of you, but I actually think it is. I'm all earth, and it feels very earthy in my mind to wake up with the earth and to not have something artificial. I get shit done though. Okay. So after that, I wake up. Right now I am feeding cats because we have another cat in the house. That is a whole story. We'll have to share that later. I normally have them on an automatic feeder, but right now we're trying to train and get them to like each other. So I'm feeding the cats. And then I go straight to my coffee. And I have my favorite room in the house, which I call my library. And I sit on my couch and I can see out to, they're kind of like woods. I'm in the city, but it's kind of like my backyard looks a little bit like a park. Sometimes I have deer come out and see me. Sometimes I see a fox. I saw a skunk not too long ago. Just, wildlife sometimes hangs out. A lot of chipmunks and squirrels and birds and that kind of thing. And I just like to be in quiet. I like to journal. I like to meditate. And I look at my phone, kind of catch up on things while I'm drinking my coffee. I have a very slow morning, and I've always kind of liked it that way, to just kind of wake up on my own. Also, I don't have kids, never wanted kids, and that's part of why. Like, I just, I love my morning and I don't want anyone messing up my mornings. So after that, that's also when I have like my most like my biggest thoughts, breakthrough strategy for myself, my company. And so sometimes if I get going on a tangent with ideas, like I will just sit and write and work. And then from there, it really depends on what is going on at the studio that I go to dance. And I'm not going to dance other than to exercise. It's the only kind of exercise I actually enjoy because it feels like I'm dancing, not exercising. So they release the schedule every month, and I basically then build my schedule around them. So I went dancing this morning at 9 a.m. Sometimes it's 10 a.m., but I try to really build my schedule out around that. And I should back up because this actually leads to another question. I also trade stocks. So in that morning time when I am on the couch and journaling and meditating, having my coffee and just enjoying my time, I also, part of the checking the phone, I check to see what's going on with the stock market because I might need to check on some of my stocks, see where things are going. The market opens at 8:30 my time, but the pre-market opens, well, it's getting earlier and earlier. It used to be 7 a.m., now it's 6 a.m. So I just kind of, I'm always checking on that, getting all of that in order. And then I get working about the day. Now, so I'm going to be sitting at my computer looking at the stock market when it opens at 8:30 a.m. because of the way I enter my orders. So I just know what I'm working for that day. And so I want to sit and kind of monitor it before I get going. So I got all of my stops in. And then it's like, well, what do I have to do? And for those of you who have been listening for a long time, you know how I plan, which is I look at the week as a whole and that builds to my bigger goals, my bigger visions. And it's like, well, what are we going to do this week? And then each day, at the end of each day, I'm separating out, well, what are we doing that day? And so today is all about podcasting, which means I will record the podcasts, I will edit and produce the podcasts. I used to not edit myself. I do now because I'm doing the video and it's easier for me actually. So I will farm that out again at some point, but right now I just do it myself. And so I get the emails ready, the show notes ready, everything ready in the queue, and then that's set up. But today is all about that. It's all about batching. But so sometimes I'll do an admin day where it's just and that's my least favorite, where I'm just handling certain things that I have to handle, just knocking that out. I have different groups. So I have mastermind groups. I have my growth accelerator where I am helping people grow their business. I have the new launch lab where it is starting your business. And then I have an attorney mastermind group that I lead as well. And so when I have Zoom calls with them, those are always at I try to do those in the afternoon. They're generally 2 to 3 p.m. my time. Sometimes they're 12 to 1. I have my Joy in the Journey. We have our monthly call, but that's just sporadic. Like, that's spread out and it's just on my calendar. And so sometimes I'm working on a particular program with a particular website, or I am working on a webinar, an opt-in. I might be working on a bigger launch or a bigger plan, how we're going to sell something. I am currently working on a book proposal, so that takes time. So yeah, it's just kind of like whatever I'm working towards is what I do. And then the stock market closes at 3 p.m. So I don't check in. I don't always check in right before it closes, but as soon as it ends, because the aftermarket trading still happens, I see, is there anything I want to get out of? I correct my charts, and I'm generally done with my day between 3:30 and 5:30, and it really just depends on how much energy do I have and do I want to keep going. That's it. I will say, pre-tumor, I worked from the moment I got up until like 5:30 or 6. I worked all the time. I did not leave to go to the gym. I was not this flexible. And I was telling someone the other day, a friend, I was like, I'm confused because I feel like I'm doing as much now. Like I'm fully back into the swing of things. I'm like, I'm doing more now than I was when, like 2020. I'm like, but I have so much more free time and so much more flexibility, and I don't have a big team. I'm like, what were we doing? And I genuinely don't know. I'm like, I genuinely don't. I know we were working, right? I know But I'm like, were we just spinning our wheels? Like, I genuinely don't know. Maybe my concept of time has changed. Maybe my concept of what's important has changed. And so I don't know. But that's kind of what my days look like. Hope that helped. Nancy Drew, Super Sleuth. All right. Second question is from Shannon. And Shannon says, I attended the Start a Side Business in 2025 webinar. Thanks for coming, Shannon. And which was all about starting a side hustle. She said, do you have a side hustle currently? Well, I actually loved this question because I was like, do I have a side hustle? And I guess I do actually. But I want to back up and say that as a full-time entrepreneur, in many ways, the business has side hustles. And here's what I mean by that. When you're a full-time entrepreneur and you are answering to yourself, you can get really creative and do whatever you want at any given moment. For those of you who work with me, you know that I'm always about focusing on one thing to test so you truly know what's working and what's not working. When you're a full-time entrepreneur, though, you can have the things that you are focusing on that is consistent, that's already proven, right? And then you go play and test on the side. And that may be a new offer, it may be a new marketing strategy. And to me, like in some ways, that is the side hustle because you're staying focused on the one thing that you know is working and that you're putting your effort towards, but then you take your extra time and you're focusing on the things that you're kind of playing with. And in my mind, that's kind of like what it would be to be a professional, but also then be kind of playing and doing something on the side. You may not feel the same way, but I do feel like when you're a full-time entrepreneur, a lot of your projects feel like a side hustle. That said, I gave it some thought, and I guess technically, maybe, kind of. I do have a side hustle. And so one is I trade stocks. When I was on my sabbatical for my health, I learned to start day trading. And even though the business is now back up and running, I'm also still doing the day trading. So in many ways, I do have both of those businesses. And then I guess the question becomes, well, which one is the side hustle? I don't know because in many ways they're both full time. But I guess if you're just thinking about this company, All Rise, then yes, I do have a side hustle, and that would be the day trading. Also, also, when I guess I was still on the sabbatical, I was actually just coming back. I started doing stand-up comedy just for fun, just as a way to have a creative outlet. I definitely have gotten paid for that. You get paid for small gigs. I also had a wonderful lawyer group come into town and they hired me to come in. I was their entertainment one night. That was so much fun. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm making money doing those things. If I wanted, I could totally, and I considered it, I could totally try to make that a side business by bringing in extra revenue. It's interesting because it's like my painting. I started painting when I was on a sabbatical as well. And I've had multiple people see my paintings and say, can I buy one from, like, can I commission something? Will you paint something? And I just don't want the pressure. I'm like, I just want to do that for fun. So sometimes that's how the stand-up comedy feels, that it's just kind of for fun. And when I get paid, it's just like icing on the cake. But I am not yet really at the point where I really am trying to make that a business model. But yeah, I guess I do have some side hustles going on. All right. Attorney always looking for alternative careers. Look, if you're always looking for alternative careers, I hope that you're actually taking some baby steps to play with and find those alternative careers and you're not just looking. I love my attorneys. I am you. I am you. I am you. Okay. If you like, because I used to Google and daydream about my cupcake shop and other things like that. I did that for many years. And I highly encourage that if you're just looking but never actually taking action, just give it a shot. Try it out. Do something on the side just for a little bit. Doesn't mean you got to quit being a lawyer, but you're going to find out what you like and don't like far better by being in action than just looking. And attorney always looking for alternative careers was like, I did not even ask like I didn't ask for that advice. Stop judging me. Okay. Let's actually we'll ask the question and then I'll answer it. All right. Are you still day trading? And if so, how is it going? Any lessons learned or cautions you would give others considering to explore day trading? Okay. Well, I already shared. Yes, I am still day trading. How's it going? It's not going as well as when that was like 100% my full time focus, but I'm okay with that because I really love this business and I love having all the different things and the different options. So I'm totally cool with that. Any lessons learned or cautions you would give? The amount of lessons I have learned from day trading. Okay, first and foremost, it's kind of like entrepreneurship. It is not for the weak of heart. There will be good days, there will be bad days. You learn so much about yourself. Entrepreneurship and day trading, they are like it's personal development on steroids. You are like all of your shadows are going to come out and you're going to have to face things that you're like, what? Like it's like the thoughts and the emotions, there's just so much that actually shows up, which is so interesting because you're like, when you think about becoming an entrepreneur or you think about day trading, like you don't think you're going to learn things about yourself or continue to have to just grow personally, but you do. It's a masterclass in personal development and how you show up in challenging times. Not that you're not challenged in other professions or anything like that, but when it is all on you. And if you, for example, if you're an attorney where you own your own business, well, you are an entrepreneur, so you know what I'm talking about. But when you are working for a company or you're working for a firm, there are a million different reasons to get stressed out, but it's not your money on the line. Like the only thing that's on the line for you is whether or not you're going to get promoted or I guess keep your job. When you are an entrepreneur or you are day trading, you have money on the line. And it's not just about how much money you're going to make, it's about how much money you could lose. And this is why a lot of stuff shows up. And you can take things very personally when you make mistakes or things don't work out the way you want. I would say, I'm like, there's a million lessons learned. But for cautions, I will say one of the things that I learned when I moved from day trading all the time and so then the business came back up. And so I had to change the way that I was day trading. So the way I was day trading previously, they call it scalping. I hate that term, but that's what they call it. So you're going to get in and out a million times a day with momentum based on the charts. When I was like, well, I can't babysit that all day. Like I'm going to be paying attention all day. It's still a full-time thing because you prep for it, you know where the market's going, you're doing your research, you're reading all of the analysis, you're having to draw out your charts, know what you want to get into, get out of. You got to look at earnings, you got to pay attention when the earnings come out, things like that. But my approach, it's not swing trading. So a swing trade would be like you hold it for 3 days. I don't even know really what they would call what I do now. I've kind of just found what approach works for me. So I kind of stack my entries and my exits. When I was moving to that, I definitely had some losses where I think I don't know that it's a lesson learned. I don't even know if it's cautionary. I think it's just more of eyes wide open, right? Is you are going to lose money while you are learning. It's like being an entrepreneur. You are going to make mistakes while you are learning. And that's actually the same for any profession. It's your money on the line versus your company or your firms. And so just know that there will be losses. And so learning from those and also learning how to manage your mind and your emotions as you're doing that can be really important. The other thing is, especially for me, one of the things I've learned is I used to only really want to take the wins, and if I was going into a loss, I would be like, "Oh, I can mitigate against this," and that was a really bad mindset habit for me. I had to start being willing to take those losses more quickly and easily, understanding the full picture because sometimes something wild can happen with a stock and then you end up losing a lot more. So that's what I would say is it takes time. It is definitely a skill and you need to be willing to be dedicated to not only doing the research, learning, finding someone who you want to learn from so that you actually have something to follow, like your own rules to follow. And then just knowing that there are a lot of mental and emotional things that go with it, and just being knowing that you have the capacity to do that. But I love it. I love the patterns. I love the strategy behind it. So if you love patterns and strategy and all of that, it could be a very good thing. Just, take your time, know that there is such a learning curve. And I will say, I've been doing this now for 3 years. And I also learn new things each year because the market is different each year. And I suspect it's similar to anything where they say like you're not really an expert until 10 years, but if you've been doing something for 10 years, you truly are an expert. I suspect it's similar because the market moves in different ways based upon whether it's a bull market or a bear market. And as my mentor likes to say, there's the Trump trading streets, and it's a doozy. Like it's really hard to keep up because at any given moment, something random can be said or tweeted, and the market just reacts wildly. So, yeah, that's what I would say to that. Okay, two more questions. Doris. Doris asked, who would be your dream guest on your podcast and what would you ask them? So I decided, I was like, because this is a business focused podcast episode, I would focus on business. But then I realized it would actually be the same person either way. And that is Dolly Parton. So Dolly was my hero growing up, and I adored her. I listened to all of her music. She had like this television show for a little bit, a variety show. I thought it was the best show on earth. It really only lasted a season or two. So apparently the other people in the world did not agree. But I just always thought she was so funny. I loved her charisma. I loved her outfits. I loved her voice. Like I just loved everything about her. I think as I've grown older, I've also really respected the business empire that she has created because it is truly wild. When you think about Dollywood and how early on she actually built Dollywood, I mean, it's a theme park with hotels and restaurants. Like it's not just one little thing. That's huge. That is huge. And she continues to grow that. So that in and of itself, I mean, to me, like to start something like that would be a full-time job. And I don't know, and this goes to where my questions. I would be really curious, one, like how she decided to do that and how it did not distract her from the work she was doing because she was still putting out albums, she was doing movies, and yet she was still able to build this. And it's very much her, and it's not just random. Like you can see her, like her influence and her touch. So she's definitely involved in it. I think she goes regularly. There's a whole museum there. I remember going as a little girl and I just loved it with, her story and her outfits and all of the things. She's got multiple books. She recently, I feel like she's been doing more in the last like 10 or 20 years. I'm like, whoa, where did Dolly come from again with all of this business stuff? She's got like the Betty Crocker stuff and the cakes and the icings, and she's got a perfume. I'm trying to think of what all she's got. She's got like the two books, and then she wrote a book with James Patterson. She's got the movies where like she's producing the movies. So not she's just in movies, but they're her movies. I think the musical is coming out. I'm guarantee you I am forgetting things. But she just has her hand in so many things. And I'm just curious from a business perspective, how involved is she? Does she have a business manager that is identifying all of these opportunities? Or are people just bringing her these ideas? I suspect that she is being very strategic and going out and getting these opportunities. And I'm just really curious where that is coming from because she has more money than God. So it's interesting to me. I'm always curious about like the mindset of people. She's in her 80s. She could totally just be relaxing, having a good time, enjoying all of the wealth that she created. And she is still building more businesses and more opportunities and expanding. And I'm curious why. Is it just because she enjoys it? She's passionate. She loves the businesses. Is she trying to build that wealth for a particular purpose? She doesn't have children. She has a very big family. I know a lot of her family is involved in her work and they're part of her team as well. So maybe it's just that, generational family wealth. Maybe she's going to give it. She was behind the at Vanderbilt. She put up the money at the very beginning of COVID for vaccines. I think people know that. Maybe they don't because I'm here in Nashville. I know that. So she was one of the very first ones who came out and funded that. She's got the Imagination Library where she helps so many children get free books, and that has grown and grown and grown. She does a lot from a charitable perspective. So I'm just curious where all of the wealth building at this stage of her career, like what's the motivation behind that and what's the end goal? Is there an end goal? I assume there's an end goal. I think she's a brilliant strategist. So I would ask her questions around that. The other question that I would really like to know is how she balances her public persona with who she really is. So, she's always been very open that the public Dolly, she's always wearing a wig, she's always done up, she's always got the makeup on, and she says like it's a character. And she's always played that character. It's like an alter ego. And we all love her and adore her. And I'm sure there is a part of her that is in that character, but I'm also really curious what the Dolly behind the scenes is like. Everyone says she's a treat, she's a joy, but does it ever get tiring? And with all of the talk about authenticity, I'm just curious, like now that she's kind of like at the end of it, like does she still very much love that she had that character and personality? Did it let her like live out dreams that she couldn't have otherwise? Yeah, and what she thinks about the concept of authenticity with like this character or this public persona. I would be curious about that. And then last, like I'm doing the podcast interview right now. Someone get Dolly to answer all these questions. Last, so she has always been the LGBTQIA community has always loved her. And she has never really been political. She has always said it's because her job in life, kind of like that public persona, that character, her job is to bring joy to people and to create inclusive rooms. And she loves that people from all walks of life can come in and be in her space and feel safe. And even her friend, like she's super close with Jane Fonda. And, Jane has said, like, I would always push Dolly on, like, if this is what you believe, why are you not saying it out loud? And she said, I don't think that is my role. My role is this inclusivity. And that's the one thing that has actually always disappointed me a little bit with Dolly is that she has not been more outspoken when I feel like she could make a difference. And I would just ask her, I think, does she still feel like that was the right answer? And would she do anything differently knowing where things are now versus where they were before? Yeah, I would just like a frank conversation around that. But I love her to death. She often is who I'm striving to be like. So that's who I would have on, Doris. I would have on Dolly. Okay, last question for Ask Me Anything, Volume 2. Oh my goodness, look. For those of you on the podcast watching on YouTube, my hair, I just noticed I had a wild hair sticking up. I don't know what's going on with my hair. Okay. Excuse me while I pause to fix my hair. All right, business bougie on a budget. Are you using AI to automate your workflows or considering AI to reduce tasks farmed out? Not really. I'll tell you how I'm using AI. It definitely has nothing to do with workflow or anything that I farm out. So I have a weird relationship with AI. I don't fully trust the privacy piece of it. And there are just things that concern me or worry me, but I'm also not like opposed to it. I think it is the future and it's about embracing the future. That said, I have never been an early adopter. So if you've ever read the book, The Tipping Point, there is the concept that there are early adopters who are going to try it before everyone else. And they love to be innovators. They love to be on the cutting edge. That is not me with anything. Like I'm not an innovative lady. I'm not a cutting edge lady. And I'm totally cool with that. I'm also not at the end of the spectrum which is like the whole world has caught on. And so finally, like the people at the end are like, well, I guess I have to. I'm not there either. I'm probably middle of the road, sometimes a little bit behind that early adopter. It depends on just what it is and whether or not I'm interested in it. But I like to see proof of concept and I like kinks to be worked out. Truly, I like to get involved when the kinks have been worked out. So when I go on to use AI, I love, if I'm going to just use true AI, I use Claude. I'll also use AI, occasionally I'll try things out, whether it's in my editing software or Canva or other things like that. Obviously, now when you Google, you're getting AI responses. But like even the AI responses on Google, like sometimes it's great. And sometimes I'm like, and like you start to like actually dig into the sources and it's like, that's not relevant. That's not. So I feel like it's going to be amazing. I personally don't feel like it's there yet. And so for others, they do, and that's awesome. I don't feel like I'm going to get left behind. I think as it improves and as it gets better, like that's when I'll be able to step in. Like I want it to do things that it can't do yet. And when I give it prompts to do things, and then what I get back is not really what I'm looking for, and I keep working with it, and it's still not what I'm looking for, I'm just like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, like transcription, I'll totally use it for transcription. That is great, especially like when I'm editing videos. If I want to have the speech to text, I'll use that. It works pretty good. I don't have to make a lot of edits on that. Sometimes I will use it to create reels and other things. If I'm wanting to promote a podcast, it does take up a lot of bandwidth on the computer and it takes up a lot of bandwidth just in thinking. And so sometimes it's like I'm working on something. I don't really want to give up that much time for it to think and work. And sometimes it's not a big deal, but like again, I think what I put into it, what I'm asking it to do is I want it to really lift some heavy weights, okay? I'm not looking for the little bitty lightweight things, which is what I think a lot of people use it for now and love. I don't actually feel like the lightweight things are that I'm doing because I was already so good at just weeding out like what's not important that it actually I haven't found that to be faster or more helpful. I end up having to redo it, and so I'm just like, I'll do it myself. Also, I like to use my own words. I like to write. I like to speak. So I don't really like it for helping me edit or draft copy. I hate it for that. Truly hate it for that. I want my own voice to come through. And I have considered, so Megan DeBaum, who is in tech, she has said that she has uploaded all of her presentations and podcasts and everything so that it could really learn her voice. And then she will use that as a way that like if someone on her team is wanting to draft something or do something, they can at least get the first draft. Again, that's a lot of work to get all of that uploaded. And I'm just like, I don't know. Am I like, do I need that at this point? I don't know that I do. I have considered uploading it all just because I've spoken on so many different topics in a million different ways that I feel like it could potentially give me some good drafts with my voice. But also, I'm happy to just write. I'm happy to just write. This is going to sound random, but my husband always says that, like, this was before AI, the things that I want to be done are impossible. And that, like, so I'm really good at, like, I've got great vision. So I'll have this vision of this outfit that I want to wear or this dress that I want to wear. And then I go out looking for it. And it doesn't exist because it's in my mind. But I, I'm not a seamstress and I'm not a designer. So I don't know how to actually get it out of my head and into, and it would probably cost $1 million. So I feel like that's where I am with AI right now. When I tell it what I want, because I have this vision and I get super specific, I'm like, do this like with my instructions, it just can't do it. I need it to take the vision and truly create the product, the final product. And I do think it's going to get there. I truly do, but it's not there yet for me. That said, business bougie on a budget, and anyone else who is loving AI, drop drop a comment under the video and let me know how you're using it because I am always open to great ideas and trying new things. So if there's ways that you are using it that you think I should absolutely be using it or try if I haven't already, leave a comment and let me know. Okay, that is it. Look, this hair is still This hair is still causing me problems today. All right. Well, thank you for joining me for the second volume of Ask Me Anything and putting up with my hair. I loved your questions. Absolutely loved your questions. Please keep asking them. I love doing this. So, again, if you've got a question that you want me to answer on the next Ask Me Anything episode, just go to heatherjoyhubbard.com/ask me anything. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give the episode a like and leave a comment below so we can keep the conversation going. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future episode or announcement. Listening on Apple, Spotify, or another podcast app, you can watch the video and join in the after-show conversation by visiting hustleandflowpodcast.com.